Okay. Going to mute that and share this. Okay, so I just have a few slides to share here. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Please do it by audio because I can't see
Yep.
any chat or anything. Yep,
You
you
are
got
good.
it? Okay, great. Okay, so Nathan Parker and I are going to be facilitating one of the breakout rooms today. And this is going to be focusing on the Open Science Hardware Project Directory. So a little bit of history and some context to frame what this discussion is about. So during a gathering for Open Science Hardware community gathering back in late 2022, the group came together to write a list of actions they'd like to take forward after the event. And one of the identified actions was to create a searchable and indexable project directory for open science hardware projects. So to get that conversation moving forward, there were several workshops dedicated to creating an OScH project directory that took place over the course of the last several months in 2023. I attended a couple of those. They were co-hosted and facilitated by Alan Gunner and Bree. I attended, and some of my colleagues and other folks from the Internet of Production Alliance, who I work with frequently, also attended. And that's mostly, folks that I'd worked with frequently from Open Source Ecology Germany, or specifically on open project data, schema, and ontologies around open know-how. So anyway, during these workshops, the overarching objectives of the directory became clear, and that was to have a discoverable place to find an open science hardware project and to create a resource for advocacy and awareness around OScH. And so the need has been expressed, but the question was then raised, do we really need to create a new directory? Because some of the emergent themes, and each one of these links I can put into chat, these are the emergent themes as collated by Gunnar, who was the facilitator for the workshops. It was clear that there are many different disparate pockets and collections of OScH projects. And so instead of creating a new directory, could we just focus on connecting all of these as a larger ecosystem? And so regardless of whether or not we go with a new directory or connecting multiple directories or repositories, there are several questions that need to be discussed, which I've listed out here. I can let you read through them, but basically it just focuses on project parameters for inclusion, what processes might need to be created, or what processes already exist, who manages all of this work moving forward, because there are many different organizations, networks, and ecosystems and individuals who are interested in this, but how does this work get carried over time? And then, finally, how can we identify some of the ongoing projects? In ongoing conversations, we talked about a few different areas we could take a look at where there are already partnerships happening. I'll just highlight the one between Apropedia and Tolokar that I talked to Emilio about during an interview, which was one of the other ways that we gathered a little bit more data about, how should we and how could we best approach this? So that leads us to, what are we looking to do today? What are me and Nathan looking to do? So our goal is really to gather from the collective brains in the space input to verify the assumptions that we're making on how to move this forward. So the intent is that we want to create a working group that will be looking at connecting directories of open source hardware, not creating a new one. And is that the direction we should go? That's assumption one. Assumption two is, is what we're looking at for the questions surrounding parameters, process, and ownership. Are those the right questions that we should be asking? What others should we be asking? And assumption three is, for partnering with specific foundations, universities, or organizations, is that a viable way forward to help accelerate the work? And what are some of the projects or groups you might recommend? So that's all I have for that, and I'll stop sharing. Are there any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. If you have questions, I would advise to put them into the chat so Sarah can answer them there. And I'll go ahead and move on with Joe.
Okay, thanks, Bree. So I'm going to share my screen. And can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. Everybody here? 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to be talking today about the Open Science Shop, and thanks so much for having me here. So the role of the Open Science Shop in the context of the OScH roadmap. So sorry, I've lost my notes, but so I'm going to be ad-libbing a little bit. But so we're here. We in the Open Science Shop are interested in the commercialization of open science instruments, and the role that this plays in the OScH roadmap is, our goal is to make open science hardware ubiquitous by 2025, and one of the ways we can do that is through the commercialization of open science hardware. And so, for example, by selling and supporting affordable open science hardware. So we're facilitating the mutually beneficial relationships between Open Science Shop members. And we can do this through shared marketing, documentation, support, and by connecting design shops with manufacturers and distributors. And we want to see existing Open Science Shop hardware companies succeed. So some background on the Open Science Shop: it actually originated from the OScH Distributed Manufacturing Working Group, which ran from 2020 to 2021. And their work was documented via blog posts and through a final report that they published in 2021. Open Science Shop started in earlier this year, with the goal of sharing ideas that were related to the previous working group, related to marketing, manufacturing, and documentation. And the Open Science Shop team is currently meeting twice a month. So where are we now? So over this last year, we've been mostly focusing on our organizational structure. We've been launching our social media. We're working on a website which would list open science hardware products, and working on some draft community agreements. And we've also been doing a lot of community building and learning about what members need. We have over 85 people already in the community that have joined either through our contact form and through Slack. And we've also launched a blog and newsletter, which is created to share content from the community. We've also working on some projects, and two that we've been focused on are shared marketing. That's mostly through our blog and newsletter, and then more recently the OpenFlexion microscope hardware kit, which is going to be the focus of today's breakout session. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Martin to talk about the breakout session in a second. But for now, I just want to leave this slide up here. We are looking for more people to get involved with Open Science Shop. We have lots of different ways that you can get involved, especially around organizational support. We could always use more help with building out our website and working on our draft agreements and helping us to curate content for the website. And if you are offering products or services on through Open Science Shop, we'd love to have you join us as well. So you can check out this through the link tree on the slide, or you can also join us on the OScH forum, or reach out to Bree and she'll connect us. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Martin now to talk about the breakout session.
Thank you very much, Joe. So yeah, if everyone can see my slides, they're up here alongside my face. Yeah, we're going to take the OpenFlexion microscope as focus for the Open Science Shop breakout session. If you're familiar with the OpenFlexion microscope, that's absolutely wonderful. But if you're not, all you need to know is that it's mainly 3D printed and includes a Raspberry Pi and a camera and some other boards and components of varying difficulty to procure. and that we currently hope to sell it across the world in 2 forms, so fully assembled and ready to use, and in kit form, excluding the PLA filament. Our breakout session is going to take a double diamond brainstorm approach. So we'll start off by brainstorming as many problems as we can with the manufacture and worldwide sale of open flexure microscopes, kits, and other hardware science. Open science hardware. Then we'll vote on which of these problems is likely to cause us the biggest headache. And then we'll take the single biggest problem and we're going to brainstorm potential solutions. Then we're going to vote again on the potential solution that we think should be developed first. And so within half an hour, we'll have a ranked list of problems and we'll have at least made a good start on solving the biggest one. Looking forward to seeing you in there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Joe. Doing great on time. Really appreciate it. And Freya, I'm going to pass it to you now if you want to share a little bit more about the policymaking session.
Yeah, absolutely. From the roadmap, I think this would fall under the advocacy for open science hardware. On the policy section, I kind of wanted to have just an open discussion on where you see that we could influence policy. What do policymakers need? I mean, we have a very short time frame, 2025, and there's a lot that needs to be done, and we're just a small group, unfortunately. So we need to be strategic. So I think it would be interesting to see what can we do the next coming years, and how are we going to tackle that. Some outcomes would indeed be, I think ideally if we would have a group of people together who want to explore this a little bit further. Possibly develop a campaign and help people who want to help with promoting open science hardware, maybe give a guide or something like that, so they know what to say, who to address, and what to tell them in short bits, because we all know that policymakers like to have short things to communicate in a way. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on a side effect, but that really depends on who's going to join, of course. I'm really interested also in developing narratives. So we can do a future. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Is that maybe where I am? That's possible. Let's imagine, what does 2025 look like? What would be the ideal outcome if we do indeed achieve what we are going to achieve, and then take it from there. So really develop this scenario, co-create these scenarios, so that we can indeed show people, you know what, just do it, because this is what's going to happen, and it's awesome, and it's fantastic, and it benefits all of us. So 2 things that I'd like to do. If you join me, we can discuss and choose what we can work on in our session. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Freya. We just have one more presentation, and it's the OScH Ambassador Program, which I'm actually going to quickly give. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Awesome. If I could just get quick thumbs up or verbal confirmation that you can see this, that would be fantastic.
You got it.
Cool.
Yep.
So the last kind of group that we're going to have today is focused on the OScH Ambassador Program, which is a new initiative that started up in the community over this past year. So a little bit about the history and context behind this is originally at the 2022 OScH gathering in Panama, a group of us came together and kind of talked about the fact that we want to have an ambassador handbook or a program, or basically a way to have just regionally and locally distributed ambassadors representing the OScH community all over the globe. And to do this, we got together earlier this year. We had a community workshop where we started collectively writing the handbook together. And through this process, we actually determined that not only do we need an ambassador handbook with information on how to be an ambassador, but we need an ambassador program where we can actually have a select group of people in the OScH community that we can work with, that we can track progress for, and get kind of a deeper dive on how people in OScH can act as ambassadors. So we established a working group a few months ago, and the big task assigned to this group is just deciding how we can govern this ambassador program, and also how we can maintain the handbook. And to kind of help us figure out how we want to govern ambassadors, we developed a framework. And if you join our session, we'll have a link to the framework as well so that you can find out more about it. But basically, some of the highlights so far that we've decided as a working group is that we are thinking 10 ambassadors from different regions across the globe. And this could also be different topical communities as well, so not just regional ones. We're thinking ideally ambassadors serve for 2 years before we open up calls for more ambassadors. We'd like this program to be more of a network of ambassadors, a place for people to share resources with one another, get connected, and get more invested in the open science hardware movement on a global level. And of course, expectations that we've started defining in the framework are related to how and when ambassadors should be attending regional conferences, presenting GOSH either at local makerspaces or in their universities, creating content, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So kind of the focus of our session today is what we want to do next with this framework. So we've gotten some good feedback from the community because we've publicly shared our framework, we've had comments, and we kind of want to take this to the next step. And basically some of the key highlights that came up here was how do we talk about transparency and how do we have open communication between the Ambassador Program Working Group and the broader GOSH community itself. We want to talk more about how can we distinguish between ambassadors in the program and just anyone in the GOSH community who can also act as an ambassador. That was a crucial thing that came up. We want to establish some sort of application and review process, again, related to the transparency note. How can we do this in a way that has the community as involved as possible? And also talk about pathways for updating the framework in future rounds. So that's what we'll be discussing in our session. I'll go ahead and stop sharing so that we can